Let's go back then to this story. Labour could be forced to reopen asylum hotels as migrant numbers continue to surge. This is despite manifesto pledges to end the policy. The idea was to save taxpayers billions. It comes as almost 63,000 asylum seekers whose cases were placed on hold by the Tories could be granted permission to stay in Britain under Labour. Is that just a kind of amnesty thing? Claire Pearsall, former government special advisor on immigration. Afternoon to you, Claire. Always good to gauge your views on these things. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Listen, I mean, when they say 63,000 asylum seekers whose cases were on hold could be granted permission, I'm going to read that as will be granted permission. Am I being too pessimistic about this government?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, it's an amnesty in all but name, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when you look at what happened with all of the backlog and all of the promises by the Labour administration in their manifesto saying we will clear the backlog. And it was actually after the election that the Home Secretary's office put out there that they were going to clear 100,000 from the backlog by the end of the year.
Yep.
So if you're looking at that target, then 62 or 63,000 takes you very close to that target.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I appreciate that this isn't an easy thing to solve, and the Conservatives never managed to solve it either. In fairness to Labour, those hotels kept getting bigger and busier all the time. And I think there was one stat I remember Claire reading a little while back, that if you processed all of those people at the current pace that the Home Office were processing them at, it would have taken, it was something like 111 years. It was a ridiculous number if you did it at the current pace, because only about 6 people are apparently now working there. But nonetheless, you know, someone's got to do something. Is an amnesty then the only... Because that's not really clearing it, is it? That's just sort of making it go away.
Yeah, it is making it go away. And I think unless you can look at those cases and see what proportion of individuals are actually entitled to remain in the United Kingdom, then I think that we are in a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
I can't believe that 62,000 people are going to be entitled to refugee status. Where have they come from? Why has it been so difficult to process them previously? So
Correct.
all of those questions need to be answered. And I don't think that the Home Secretary has got any answers. I certainly have seen nothing coming out, only pointing the finger at the Conservatives. And as you say, they aren't clean-handed in all of this either. There was a complete lack of ability to get these claims processed in the first place.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody, you know, with a straight face now could surely... I mean, Yvette Cooper and Starmer keep talking about the gangs. They're obsessed with the gang. Everybody knows that needs sorting, and the last time I looked, you know, most countries around Europe, including us, are trying to sort it anyway. It's a criminal offence to do what those people were doing, and it's high organised crime. Already something they're aware of, with limited success, but they're aware of it. It's the actual people crossing that I think most people in this country want to see addressed. And if somebody has escaped inevitable tyranny and you know, barbarism and all the horrible things that can go on, we've always had a good track record in this country of helping those people. But there is a real sense now that isn't who we're talking about. And of course there might be people who've come from Afghanistan. If a translator helped us during all that time during the war, I would be the first to say they're exactly the kind of people we would want to help, in the same way we would want to help Ukrainians, where we can understand it. But when you have thousands of people and you have no idea who they are, and even if they tell you who they are, you still don't know whether they are who they say they are, because you can't always authenticate their country of origin, and you can't always authenticate the story that they will give as to why they are apparently claiming asylum.
Well, no, and that's why you need the specialist teams in the Home Office who actually go and interview people with a basis of knowledge of the areas that these people claim to be from. And this is something which I think is lost in a lot of conversations. Those specialists, if you say you're from Afghanistan, you're from a certain village, you and I wouldn't have a clue whether that was true or not.
Yes.
We wouldn't know where it was on a map if we had to point to it. But these people know the dialects, they know the local towns, cities that are nearby. They can put some veracity to that particular person's claim. But unfortunately, those people have been lost from the Home Office. So there's an awful lot. It's a really technical area. It is very, very difficult to solve. But I think that Labour have done themselves no favours by suggesting that they were going to come in, crack the gangs, the boats would stop, nobody would be in hotels, and life would be hunky-dory. It isn't that easy. They are just finding that out. And their manifesto pledge to stop the funding of hotels has had a U-turn, and it's the first one that we can put a big red line through. Indeed.
Robert Jenrick sat in this studio with me a week ago and said that quite literally, if people arrived in a boat in Dover, within days, they would be put on another boat to be returned to their country of origin, and their claim would be processed immediately. Now, these are bold words. I think notionally everybody, probably even Yvette Cooper, would say, well, I'd like to see that done as well. But there's just not the personnel for this, right?
But also, isn't that the same Robert Jenrick who was immigration minister, and also the same Robert Jenrick who is currently a leadership contender? So I feel that I'm not really going to take his words as something that he is going to wish to see through, because he knows how difficult it is. And if he thought that there was an easy answer, then he would have put that up during his time at the Home Office. It isn't that simple. I think we would all love it to be that simple. Scoop people up off the beaches of Dover, process them that afternoon, and if they don't have a claim, then return them via whichever means is available to you. But it doesn't work like that, and I think it's a little bit unfair to say it does.
What is your take on the statistics, which are there for all to see, that something like 2/3 of all claims are seen as legit and given the green light? Now, I know this always, like so many of these stories, it's very hard to really get to the unequivocal truth on what happens here. I've spoken to Border Force people who have said, look, you know, there's lots of games that are played in this field, and if somebody says, for example, I've come from Iran, I'm gay, and therefore if I go back to Iran, they're going to hang me from a crane, which literally could happen, or I've converted to Christianity, I've come from a Muslim country, so therefore, you know, we've heard all of this, and those that are in charge of saying yes or no will err on the side of caution and go, well, we're not sure, so we're going to say yes. Now, to your knowledge, is that true? And is it also true that we nod more people through than other equivalent countries like France or Germany?
I wouldn't say that it's true against other countries, but I do think that there are always going to be those individuals who will look to play the system. And in fact, I remember vividly a case of an individual who claimed that they couldn't possibly be returned to their country of origin because they were gay, and their family would hold it against them. The country that they were being returned to was Australia. So I didn't really buy that story. It came up for a ministerial decision. And it's as simple as that. It was like, that is ridiculous. But they had to check, because the people making those decisions do not want to send somebody back if they are going to be put in mortal danger. And you can understand that. But I think that we need a lot more people processing. We need a lot more people with a lot more knowledge as well. And I think that we haven't taken it seriously what an important job it is. You are relying upon that one person processing an applicant to make a decision literally over life and death. And if we're not going to pay them or train them properly, who is going to do it?
Listen, Claire, thank you very much indeed for that. That's Claire Pearsall with us on the programme, former immigration advisor to the Home Office.